This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. All right. So every week I like to go through the comment section and see what you guys are saying down there and react to it. I label it as hot takes. Some of them are hot takes. Some of them are just kind of just interesting things you guys have said in reaction to the things that I put out there. So this is my chance to interact with you guys. We're going to start with Basher, who is a member. Big shout out. Got the white stripe too, so we know you've been a member for a minute. Appreciate you. Says, I just don't understand how, as fans, we can make any informed decisions on what the team will look like with 5 new offensive linemen, a first-time head coach, and the worst-rated QBs in the league. I don't get it yet. I mean, everybody's speculating based on what they know, right? Obviously, there are variables nobody can account for, but I don't think that invalidates the exercise completely, right? Like, we're going to talk about it. We're going to speculate about it because that's what the whole point of being a fan is. We don't know how the season's going to go, but we speculate on how it could go, if it's going to be better than we think, or how it could go better than we think, or how it could go worse than we think. Sometimes people get in this bag where they're not happy with the things that people are speculating about with the team, and they go, well, we actually don't know, so it's not worth talking about. It's like, yeah, you don't know most things, but you talk about most things, right? Like, you know, and in this case, like, yeah, we don't necessarily know how the 5 new offensive linemen are going to work, but these offensive linemen all have track records that we can look at. You know, the head coach has a track record that we can look at, and we can evaluate that, take all of that information in, and come out with an opinion. It's not a crazy thing to do, especially when we have records of all of these guys and how they did their jobs before. You know, just because we don't know exactly how things are going to go out doesn't mean talking about them is pointless. I mean, it's the entire point. Talking about things that we know are going to like happen or how they're going to play out, that's actually more pointless, right? But when you don't know, there's a lot of room for conversation, a lot of room for education, and you can fill in the blanks there. Eric Marshall with the next hot take says, I'm putting Boston in the running for, I think he's saying Denzel Boston, for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Judkins finishes top 5 in rushing and receiving yards combined. Fannin in top 3 for tight end and V8 with 12 sacks. What would top 3 for tight end look like? Like, what did that look like last year? Let me pull that up real quick. All right, so Juwan Johnson with New Orleans last year, about 889 yards. So we're saying that's about 900 yards for Harold Fannin. Judkins finishes in the top 5 of total yards. And then Boston's in the running. I don't think that's crazy. I think Fannin could get a low 1,000. Boston can be in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. You know, given that like the number 1 overall pick's probably not going to play till halfway through the season, it might be a wide open race for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So, you know, I could see Boston with less than 1,000 yards maybe being in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And then Judkins finishing top 5 in rushing and receiving yards. That's going to be difficult, right? Because total yards, if StatMuse is to be believed, which it could be wrong, that would have to be about 1,800 yards total. So you're probably talking about like a healthy 400, 500 receiving yards to go with like a 1,300 yard season. I don't know if Judkins is going to get that. But I can see Judkins top 10 in total yards for a running back. Fannin in the top 3 at tight end. Jared Verse with 12 sacks is fine. And Boston being in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I also would like say that, you know, Casey Concepcion, like, I would not just like dismiss him. You know, I get it. We haven't seen him in pads. All people talk about is that he had the drops at Texas A&M, but like, there's a reason people comp him to Zay Flowers, but better, right? Like, it might be KC this year. Like, Denzel Boston, he might have a good year, but KC might be better. And the Browns certainly think so because they drafted KC first. So would not just throw him out of a conversation like this. But, it's not the craziest thing in the world that I've seen. We're going to continue with more hot takes, but first I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports app. The app is really easy to use for player picks. Just pick more or less for a few player stats and lock in your lineup. That's it. Rather just pick teams, well, PrizePicks has that now too. Just pick the winner, spread, or total in any game or fight. PrizePicks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Plus, you can even follow me on the app at Quinn_C and tell my picks with one click and follow your friends too. Speaking of my picks, here they are. Myles Garrett over 15.75 sacks. 16's been his baseline the last few years. I'd be very surprised if he goes to LA and that number drops, given that he's going to see more passing attempts, given that LA's offense is better than what the Browns have been. Quincy Judkins, 924 yards. They had two really good picks for Quincy here, 6 touchdowns or 924 yards. I feel comfortable taking more on both, but 1,000 yards feels like a safer bet for Quincy. I think he's going to have a big year this year. Carson Schlesinger, 2.25 sacks. I'm saying more. Remember, Mike Rutenberg likes to blitz his linebackers a lot more than the previous defensive coordinator the Cleveland Browns had. Also, Carson Schlesinger is probably going to have to get involved as a sack producer to make up for the hole that they're going to have to make up for Myles Garrett. And then Shedeur Sanders starting more than 7.5 games. I think he'll be the starter, play about 8 games or more this year, but that's my picks for this season. Best of all, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use the promo code HMA when you sign up. Again, that's your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win when you use the promo code HMA. PrizePicks has switched up their offer. There's no better time to join, lock in, and win that first lineup. All right, we're back. Sean Newland says this. He's talking about Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur hasn't done enough in this league to deserve all the hate, but also he hasn't done enough to deserve all the hype. The people on both ends of his scale are very disingenuous. I don't know if I would say like 100% disingenuous, but I would say like the media figures at the end of each scale, those people are disingenuous. I think the people at each end of each scale are kind of victims of a pretty shitty media landscape, in my opinion, right? So I would like to separate those two, right? The people who intentionally go out there and start this nonsense because they know it's profitable, those folks, I think they're a bit disingenuous. The people who believe this stuff because that's what they're being fed by mainstream sources, I can't see somebody delude the drinking water and then get mad when the population shows effects of drinking poisoned water. You know what I mean? So I get that. I would say this when it comes to Shedeur and trying to enjoy and fairly evaluate whatever it is with him. And this is, I think, advice that's useful regardless of the player that we're talking about and just like in general. Try to not have every interaction that you're going to have about the Cleveland Browns or about Shedeur be online, right? Online, you're going to run into people doing the Olympics to do the most, right? And they're used to people doing the most, so they're always going to react kind of hostile to you. And it's not really an environment that invites a ton of conversation. But if you talk to people in like real life, they're more open to different things, and it's not my way or the highway the way an internet conversation is. Also consider every time that you have a conversation on the internet with somebody, especially like on a platform like Twitter, you might look at that conversation as like you're talking to somebody one-on-one, but what's actually happening is that you're talking with somebody and then you're surrounded by like 30 people at all times, right? Like you have an audience on Twitter, and the existence of that audience makes it so that people are more performative in their conversation about a player than they would normally be if you just talk to them in a non-public forum. So keep that in mind, right? If the only way you interact with conversations about the Browns is on like Twitter, you're always going to be exposed to the most intense version and most performative version of what people think, because you're always having those conversations in public. So try to find ways to have these conversations with folks where, you know, maybe you're one-on-one on the Discord server, or you have each other's phone numbers and you're texting, or you're in a group text or something like that, where that pressure of the audience isn't making people just be so damn performative all the time. You know, or just like, you know, meet people in real life. I know that's a new technology that just got dropped, you know, the IRL tech. So be careful with new technology, but, you know, meeting people in real life and having conversations about things that you enjoy in real life, it's been a good formula for like hundreds of years. Might be something that we should rediscover. You know, maybe we need some guy in Silicon Valley to reinvent talking to people in real life. But now let me get carried away here. All right. Elijah with the next hot take here says, the more I look at the Cleveland Browns, the more it reminds me of the Detroit Lions. Or I might just be tripping. I like the acknowledgement of like, yeah, I'm excited, but I might be tripping here. I think there are some things that are similar, though. Like, I don't think it's crazy to see some similarities. I think there are some differences, you know. The Detroit Lions had, at that point, a 25-year-old Jared Goff. Was he 25? I feel like Jared Goff was like 23 coming out. Maybe it was like a 28, 29-year-old Jared Goff, right? But they had a sub-30-year-old Jared Goff who was an acceptable quarterback when they traded for him. He just was not the championship caliber quarterback that the Rams felt like they needed, right? We talked about on this channel how the swap of Jared Verse and Myles Garrett is a pretty similar thing that they did for Matt Stafford, right? Where they said, hey, we like this young player, but we don't think this player has the ceiling to be, you know, at the top of their field. So we're going to get somebody we think is at that level in a Matt Stafford, and pay a premium to get him. So it's kind of similar in that way. The big thing is that the Browns don't have a quarterback right now, but if we're just looking at young talent, how much they've accumulated over the last couple of years, if they get somebody in here that can play quarterback at a high enough level, it could very well be the Detroit Lions. Like, I don't think it's crazy to think that that's possible with this team eventually at some point. Obviously, it's not what I expect to happen right now at this moment, but I don't think it's crazy. I really don't. I think there are things that are similar. Paul says this. There's another factor. This is talking about Quincy Judkins cross-training with boxing. There's another factor in the boxing lessons and workouts. Coach talked about how you set your feet, move forward. Good lesson for blocking on the blitzer. A little bit about cardio. We ran 5 miles a day, 6 days a week in the Marine Corps. 2 of those days were in uniform and combat boots in pack. In pack is crazy. If you don't know, when he's saying in pack, that's like with the backpack. Like, that's basically like 30 pounds, 60 pounds of gear, depending on what you do. My heart rate at the end of a run was about 180 to 200 range, dropped to 66 within minutes. It's the drop rate and how fast you get there that's the most important. Do that and your burst will never leave you. I remember, because my dad was in the Navy, right? And he would always make the point that, one, Marines are crazy people. He would always say that, like lovingly, in a Navy kind of way, but also that like Marines have crazy cardio and they never like you never see a fat Marine, like even if they're not been in the service for a long time. Marines always kind of keep that mentality about them, right? And that cardio, kind of that boxing, you talked about it with the feet. Another thing to keep in mind is one of the things that boxing demands and why boxing is so cardio heavy is like you have to have good feet when you box. Like having bad, tired feet when you're boxing, that's the quickest way to get knocked out. So when you're learning how to box, you're also learning how to be tired but maintain your lower body, maintain your feet, because that's usually the first thing that goes when people get tired, right, and fatigued is their feet. They usually go to shit. But when you're boxing, your feet can't go. Your feet cannot go. So it's another thing. But great insight, Paul. Appreciate you dropping that comment in there. Appreciate all of you guys dropping the comments that you have dropped into my comment section. Please continue to comment. It's a great way to support me. Thank you guys for watching the video. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.